What's up, everybody? My name is Evan Mazza here for the first inaugural episode of Mazza on Mets. We'll be talking all things New York Mets, recapping games, previewing series, recapping series, news, coaching changes, hitting changes, everything that goes on with the New York Mets that we'll get into uh, throughout the season as we continue throughout the season. Of course, it's now June. So, a little introductory thing. I'm a big New York Mets fan. I'm also a big Baltimore Ravens fan. And on the YouTube channel, we'll have a show called Mazza on Ravens where I'll discuss all things Baltimore Ravens as they continue on through their off season, as they get to mini camp, training camp, the preseason, and eventually regular season in September. We'll get to them and talk about them on Mazza on Ravens. But first, for the first inaugural episode of Mazza on Mets, we gotta talk about and what better way to this new start off with this podcast, this new show, than talk about last night's game after last night's game because that it shows you the reason. Again, it wasn't pretty, wasn't perfect. And as a Baltimore Ravens fan, I know what it feels like to have a team that ain't pretty, ain't perfect, but they get the job done. And that's what you like to see from the Mets. It wasn't pretty last night. It wasn't pretty. It wasn't perfect, but they found a way to win. They found a way to get the job done and win. Last night was a game that for 5, 6, 7 innings you thought this is a loss, and it would have been a tough one to swallow because of it would have been tough. This would have been a tough loss because you just had the bad loss last night, the day before against the Los Angeles Dodgers, where you're up 4-0, and the Dodgers came back and won. You left so many guys on base. And there was the pickoff on Starling Marte. We got picked off. You left too many guys on base. The error by Brett Beatty, and you end up dropping that. You end up dropping a game that you should have won. The third time the Mets lost the Dodgers. We'll talk a bit about that Dodgers series, but the third time where the Mets lost to the Dodgers, they won the series, won the season series 4-3. So you can't complain too much. They won the season series 4-3, but those three losses are games that the Mets really, really could have won. They really should have won all three of those. They should have won every single game. It's baseball, but that is what it is. They should have won really all three of those games. But they dropped that one to the Dodgers in the finale. They came back to Colorado. No off day. No off day. They came back to Colorado. But everyone's thinking, the Mets will just, they'll beat up on the Rockies and that'll be, but that's not who the Mets have been. That's not who the Mets have been so far to this point. They haven't been a team that has dominated. They've won a lot of games against teams over 500. Dodgers, the Cubs, aside from the Yankees, they've done really good against teams over 500. The Dodgers, the Cubs, the Phillies, etc. The Blue Jays, but they haven't been. But against lesser teams, they've won series, but not. They haven't been impressive. They split the series against Washington, a couple of games where they should have won. They beat the Marlins 2 out of 3, but again, they had that crazy game in the finale against Miami before they came home for their home opener. But they won that series 2 out of 3. They beat the White Sox 2 out of 3, but they had to struggle to win those games. They swept the Rockies, but aside from one, they had to struggle for the other two to win those two games. Um, Against the Pirates, they won 2 out of 3, but had to squeeze out both those two games before they got shut out in the finale. So it's not been a walk in the park for them against teams under 500, and especially against lesser teams like the White Sox, the Pirates, and the Rockies. You know, the Marlins and Nationals are division rival, to be fair. It's in division, to be fair, and all those games are 50-50 in division. But even still, the Mets have not the Mets have not been able to really reassert their dominance against teams under 500. They really haven't. I saw Anthony McCarron of SMY last night on one of the shows. I think it was Baseball Night in New York, and he's like, the Mets will just stomp all over the the Mets will take care of business against the Rockies. And I watched that. I'm like, the Mets have not really shown you they're capable of doing that. They'll win the games, of course, but they haven't really shown you that they're going to dominate. And that's what happened last night. They didn't dominate. Kodai Senga was good. It was good, but he wasn't great. I wouldn't say it was Senga's greatest outing of the season, even though it was, again, you facing the Rockies, you expect Kodai to be, dominant, 7 innings, maybe even 8 or whatever, but he kind of had to battle his way through 6. He kind of did. He got in and out of jams, got out of that triple, got out of that man on third, nobody out situation, got out of that. Um, was very heavy with his ghost fork. The ghost fork was used a lot last night, and you could tell that because this was his first time pitching at Coors Field. You could tell there was a little more, I guess, carefulness to his pitch selections for his first time playing at Coors Field. Because again, Coors Field, regardless of how the Rockies are, good or bad, regardless of how the Rockies are, it's tough for any pitcher pitching at Coors Field, especially when it's your first time. I didn't know that, by the way. I did not know that that was Kodai Senga's first time pitching at Coors Field. I didn't know that. I could have swore I thought he pitched that. That's what Gary Cohen said on the broadcast last night. Could have swore Kodai Senga pitched in Coors Field back in 2023, but I guess he didn't. I guess he did. I could have swore that was his first time pitching. I could have swore he pitched there in 2023, but I guess he must have missed the Coors Field start. I guess he must have missed it when they went to Coors Field in 2023. But anyway, it was his first time playing at Coors Field. He was more happy with his ghost fork and fastball, less with his curveball and sweeper than he usually is. But he was still effective. He was still solid. He gave him 6. The only mistake he made really was the home run that he gave to Mickey Moniak in the third or fourth inning. He was still good and solid. Gave the Mets a chance. It's what the Mets starting pitchers have done all season to this point. Give him 6, maybe 7, and give him a chance to win. This Mets starting pitching has been the strong point of the team. It's been the strength of the team, and could I say continued that last night. What hasn't been what the pitching has been able to do is give the Mets a chance. And unfortunately, the offense is where they struggles a bit. Unfortunately, the offense is where their runners in scoring position situation and their situational hitting and timely hitting, it's been 3 months. It's been 3 months now. We usually know what a team is by the time we get to June, July, right? Once we get closer and closer to buying and selling season in July 31st, August 1st. We know what teams are by June, July. Well, it's June 7th. Well, it's currently June 7th. We know what teams are by June and July. And for the Mets, we know who they are. Really good pitching, really good starting pitching staff, pretty solid bullpen, but they don't, and an offense with stars all around and really good players and a big 3 that anybody in baseball would love to have: Francisco Lindor, Pete Alonso, Juan Soto. But they don't score runners in scoring position, and that is a huge thing for this team. They are at the bottom of the league, not kidding, and that is with again Pete Alonso, Francisco Lindor, Juan Soto, bottom of the league. They are, they are they are amongst the bottom of they are a team that unfortunately is right there with the Pirates and right there with the White Sox and right there with the Rockies themselves, with struggles of runners in scoring position. It's been a team that has struggled with runners in scoring position all season long to this point. It's been 3 months. And it hasn't changed. So we know who they are. We know who they are. And aside from Pete Alonso, who has been, in my opinion, has been the National League MVP. He's not just been the MVP of the Mets, he's been the National League MVP. We know where the MVP is going. We know where the MVP is going. It's going to number 17 in LA. And he's great. Joey is the best in baseball. But if you were to tell me who is the most valuable player in the National League right now, it's been Pete Alonso. What he has done for the Mets and carried the Mets the way he has so far this season, that to me, that's MVP. And that's not just the Met fan in me. Maybe a teeny bit, but that's no, I'm kidding. But it's not just the Met fan in me. You watch it, you see it. Pete Alonso is playing like a National League MVP. He won't win it, but he's playing like it. And last night was another example. This team was 0 for 9, once again, struggling to run scoring position. 0 for 9, 0 for 10. Had bases loaded, nobody out, and could not score. Brett Beatty struck out. Francisco Alvarez struck out. Ronnie Mauricio struck out. They had bases loaded, nobody out, down 1-0 with a chance to take the lead, and they didn't score. And this was a game they had no business winning, but Pete Alonso made sure that they had a chance. Soto got on base with a hit. Soto had 3 hits. You can't, the heroes of this game are Pete Alonso and the man we'll get to, Francisco Lindor. We'll get to him because his heroics were incredible last night. And it's what made this game so memorable for the Mets, and what made this game one of the more memorable games of the season so far to this point. It's what made this game one of the more memorable games of the season. But Juan Soto was a unsung hero of this one too. Juan Soto was a hero of this game too. 3 hits, a walk, got on base 4 times, and 2 times he got on base to set up Pete and Lindor's heroics. He gets on base. When Pete comes up to the plate, Marte's on base as well. They're down 1-0. You need a big hit. They're in the 6th, 7th inning. You need it. They're in the top of the 7th. They've been searching for the big hit all day. It hadn't happened. They were 0 for 8, 0 for 9, 0 for 10. They could not score once again, just like the day before against the Dodgers, and just like what's been for a large part of the season. They could not score. They could not score. And Pete Alonso steps up and comes through. Slider in, slider away, and he lines it down to left center field for a double. Goes to the gap. Marte scores. I think it was Nimmo maybe. And Soto scores from first. And the Mets are up 2-1. Just like that. One swing of the bat from their big bopper, from their guy, Pete Alonso, and they have the lead. In a game where they couldn't score at all. Before you know it, they had the lead. Why? Because Pete Alonso came through again. And that's what Pete Alonso has done. Pete Alonso has done this season has been nothing short of spectacular. And we didn't see this out of Alonso the last 2 years. We did not see this out of Alonso for the last 2 years. We didn't see this out of him last year. For all the heroics of everybody around last year, Alonso unfortunately wasn't one of them. And 23, through their struggles, Pete was one of those guys that struggled. This is 2022. The Mets have been waiting for the past 2 years for 2022 Pete Alonso. 2022 Pete Alonso is the best Pete Alonso and the most complete version of Pete Alonso we had seen before this season. 2025 Pete Alonso has been 2022 Pete Alonso and then some. It's been 2022 Pete Alonso and then some. He has been his 2022 form, but better. And you love to see that. And yeah, he's playing for a contract, I know, but you love to see it. He was playing for a contract last year and struggled. But you love to see it. And I don't want to keep saying it because everyone's been saying it for the past year, but it really did start after the home run by Devin Williams against Devin Williams. It really started after the home run against Devin Williams. It really did. He hit the home run against Devin Williams, and he has been flying ever since. He has been the hitter that you love to see. Well, Pete's been a hot and cold hitter throughout his career. When he's cold, it's pretty cold. But when he's hot, boy, he can carry a team. When he's hot, he can carry a team. He can carry the Mets. He can carry a team. He's that good when he's hot. He's that good when he's hot. And we've seen hot Pete Alonso all season to this point. Yeah, he had a bit of slowed down a bit in early May, but that was to be expected. He was so good in April. But even through May, he was fine. And he has started this month really good. He has been everything you could have wanted to start this season. And they've made it because as good as Francisco Lindor has been this season, he has struggled running scoring position. Francisco Lindor. As good as clutch as Francisco Lindor has been, and he added more to his clutchness later in the game, and again, we'll get to it. He's struggled running scoring position. Jeff McNeil struggled running scoring position. Alvarez has struggled. Vientos has struggled. Beatty has been through his ups and downs. And Juan Soto has struggled running scoring position, and he has had his ups and downs this season. Soto lately has been pretty good. Hopefully for the Mets, what we've seen out of Juan Soto the last several games, 7 or 8 games, 9 games, is Juan Soto. Last night it was great. 3 hits, a walk, got on base 4 times, Juan Soto. hopefully, if you're the Mets, you're now seeing what you're now seeing this Juan Soto over the past, 7, 8, 9 or so games, and you're hoping this is the start of a hot streak because we really haven't seen a truly hot Juan Soto to this point. He started off hot, then he cooled, then he got going again, then he got cool, then he got cold again, and now he's getting going again. So you hopefully, if you're so you're hoping that this will result in a hot stretch for Soto where he's Juan Soto. He's Juan Soto. But the Mets have, but because of that, because of everything that's going on around the Mets and them being struggling to run scoring position and all their guys struggling to run scoring position, it has put more pressure on Alonso to come through night game in and game out. And Pete, for the most part, has done that. He has come through and run a scoring position and it's gotten the big hit game in and game out for this team. And that is what the Mets have needed. It is what the Mets have needed. And Alonso has done that. And he did it again last night. He did it again last night. When the Mets needed a hit, they needed a run or two. When they had struggled running scoring position all game to that point, did not score with the base loaded, nobody out. Pete Alonso came through, just like he's done all season long. And you love to see it if you're the Mets. You love to see it if you're the Mets because this is, like I said, 2022 Alonso plus, and then some. And then we get to, unfortunately, the game was not over though, because in the next inning, Brazoban gives up the lead. And again, Brazoban's been really good through season, through all season long, but he gives it up, tie game. Ryan Stanek then comes in for the bottom of the eighth, excuse me. And he gets into a bases loaded, nobody out jams. Now the Colorado Rockies have bases loaded and nobody out. It's like the Mets did. So you know how it goes, right? Especially, you know how it goes, right? If one team doesn't score with a base load, nobody out, then you know the other team is going to score a base load, nobody out. But it didn't happen because Brett Baty made the play of the game. Brett Baty, just one game after he made that error against the Dodgers that cost them the game, he bounced right back. And he's been pretty good. He's been pretty good at third base for a guy who had struggled a lot defensively last year and struggled a lot defensively in 2023. He has been really good at third base. He's with Mark Vientos struggles at third. They needed somebody at third to step up, and Beatty has. Overall he has. The error against the Dodgers aside, overall he has. He's been very good at third base, and there was a liner right by Ryan McMahon. Ryan McMahon's a good hitter. For all the Rockies, in the season they've had, Ryan McMahon is still a good hitter. And he lined that down the line. I thought for sure I think even Keith Hernandez on the broadcast like that's a triple. That's either a double or a triple if that goes down the line. And I thought for sure it was extra bases. And all of a sudden, Beatty dives in, makes this great catch, tags the runner out, 2 outs, just like that, 2 outs. Stanek strikes out the next guy, they're out of the inning. After the and the best was again, you love the best was, Stanek is pumped up, he's fired up, he's thrilled. He comes in and he gives Brett Baty a hug. He gives Brett Baty a hug from behind him dugout. You love to see that. But you know, but it just again, Beatty made the play of the day. At one day after he made a play that cost him the game, he comes right back the next day and makes the play of the game. You know, that's something that again it shows the toughness and resiliency of this team, and it shows you that hey, they're able to put a loss like Thursday night against the Dodgers. They're able to put that to the side and keep playing and just keep playing because it's a long, long season. And for Brett Baty especially, right? Because he's been great defensively this year, but he's had defensive miscues over throughout his short big league career. Beatty has had some miscues at on defense throughout his career to this point. Again, not a long career, but again, he's only been a major leaguer since middle of 2022 or most 2023. But he's had defensive struggles, defensively. But this year, defensively, Beatty has been great. Beatty has made terrific plays on defense overall. He's made terrific plays, and last night was the best of all to this so far this season. It was the best defensive play Beatty has made not only this season, but I think throughout his career. A great diving play to his left to catch the line drive, and then he's the as they said as as they say, the presence of mind to go right in and dive and tag the runner out of third to get the double play, get that double play. And he did a great job. Stanek gave Stanek a chance to get Brett Doyle out. He strikes out Doyle, and it gave the Mets a chance to win the top of the ninth. So they don't win that game. They don't win this game without Brett Baty. Pete Alonso, Lindor were the heroes of this game, but they don't get this win without Brett Baty and his defense. That was a phenomenal play, one of the best plays defensively the Mets have made all season long. Either that or the Brandon Nimmo play when he robbed the home run against the Cubs. But to me, that was the best defensive play I think of the season so far for the Mets by Brett Baty. That was fantastic stuff. And it sets up the top of the ninth. Soto gets on base. Pete's on base. Soto gets on base for a fourth time. Alonso's on base once again with a walk. And in comes Francisco Lindor. Broken pinky toe. Didn't start the finale against the Dodgers, didn't start this game. You know, broken pinky toe. He's off the bench. He's hobbled. Tie game at two, top of the ninth, 2 outs. And he lines a game winning, go ahead, game winner down the right field line. Scores Soto 3-2. Pete comes roll away from first and scores. And it's one of those things with Pete. A great slide by Alonso. Great slide by Alonso. I'm not, it's one of those plays where you look at and go, oh, there's no way. At first, usually, you see a play like that and you go, oh, there's no way the guy is safe. But on first glance, when Pete runs third and he slides, I immediately knew he was safe because you saw his right hand. You saw his right hand. You saw his right hand hit the plate. You saw his right hand go and hit the plate. It was a terrific slide by Pete. And you saw his right hand, get the plate. So it was one of those plays that usually you go, oh, there's no way he's safe. He's definitely out. But when I saw it at first glance, when that play first out, I'm like, he's safe. He's safe. You saw it right there. His hand hit the plate. So a terrific slide by Pete, a terrific slide by Alonso, terrific slide by him. Lindor goes to second with a go-ahead double, and just goes again. I said it on Twitter, posted on Twitter after Francisco Lindor's hit. I said, "What a player! What a player! What a player this guy is! You know, you know, what a player Francisco Lindor is! You know, what a player! You just what else can you say? He has been so good for 4.5 years, really since July 2021. That's when everything turned around for him. July 2021. That's when he really started to get going and play well. And yeah, he had his bad starts and struggles last year in 23, bad starts, but he bounced back from all of them and he still had productive seasons. And really for the better part of a year and a half, he has been Mr. Clutch. For the better part of a year and a half, he has been Mr. Clutch. And this year, I think he already has what, 3 walk-off hits, 3 walk-off, I think. Two. He definitely has two. He's got the walk-off sac fly, and he's got the walk-off home run. But there's a third one. I could be wrong, but I think there's a third one in there. I mean, but again, the point is, he has been so big and so clutch for this team. Not just, to me, it's not just been for the past year and a half. To me, it's been dating back since July 2021, where he finished off that season strong. But yeah, for the better part of a year and a half, he has been Mr. Clutch for this team. Every big spot that the Mets have, you want him up there because you just trust him to get the hit. You trust him to get the big hit. And he did it again last night. Off the bench, hobbled and hurt with a broken toe, and he did it again. He came through clutch and did it again. Mets take a 4-2 lead. Edwin Diaz comes in, 1-2-3 ninth, and the Mets pull out a win. A game where they probably should not have won in the first place. A game that they couldn't score. They couldn't score. They were 0 for 8, 0 for 9, 0 for 10, to start with runners in scoring position. They're down 1-0 to the Rockies. It's like, man, once again, this offense struggling runners in scoring position. Once again, it's like this team's got to come through. Their big guys have got to come through. And that's what happened. They showed good resiliency and they battled throughout this game and they were able to find a way. Pete with the big hit. Soto got 3 hits and a walk and got on base 4 times. Like I said, he was an unsung hero of this game, Juan Soto. Francisco Lindor comes off the bench. Senga had a good outing. Senga had a strong outing. Lindor comes off the bench, hobbled up and hurt, broken pinky toe, hadn't started for 2 straight games, comes off the bench, big clutch hit with 2 outs too. With 2 outs, wasn't with 1 out, nobody out. No, it was 2 outs. Clutch base hit down the line, and the Mets win. They find a way. Again, it's not been the Mets have not been. They're a good team. This is a good baseball team, but they certainly have. They haven't really, I think, asserted their dominance as a great team yet in baseball. I know it's weird to say, considering they're 16 games or so over 500. They have the best record in the National League. The first team in the National League this year with 40 wins. First team to get to 40 wins in the National League. I know that's weird to say, but they really haven't. I don't think they've truly showed their true potential of what they could be. And the big reason for that is because they've struggled with runners in scoring position so much, on offense. So the pitching has had to really carry the load here. It's really had to, to it's really had to keep going the pitching and give the Mets a chance. They've really had to carry things, the pitching, especially the starting pitching. But this Mets offense with runners in scoring position, again, they're going to have to find a way to turn this around because it's been 3 months now of this. It's been 3 months, and it continued again yesterday. And it's a daily thing, 2 for 12. You guys know. We all know. We all know. Daily game, every game. 2 for 12, 1 for 10, 0 for 9, 3 for 12. 1, 2 for 13. Something like It's been every game, even with the wins. Even with the wins, it's been like this every single game. Even with the wins, it's been like this every single game. So they need their guys to step up. They need their big guys to step up and hit and play well. You know, they need their guys to step up and play well and hit. And that goes to Francisco Lindor, who has struggled around the scoring position. That goes to all these guys. Juan Soto. So they need to get the big hits. They need to really, and again, have some games where you look like a great team. The Mets haven't had many games this year where they truly looked like a great team, even though they've won a lot of games against teams over 500. Aside from the Yankees series, the Mets have played really well against teams over 500. You know, but again, teams against teams under 500, it's been a battle. Even though they've won those games, it's been a battle. It's been a battle. So for Francisco Lindor to once again come through in the clutch, for Pete Alonso to once again come through in the clutch, that was big. Big, that's big time. And that shows their toughness and resiliency, even through a tough game like last night where it looked like they were going to lose. It looked like they were going to get shut out. It looked like they were going to get shut out. So, but back to Lindor. What else can you say about him? What a player. What a player. What a leader. That's the captain. He's the captain of the team. He's the leader of the team. As it's been said before and will continue to be said, they go as he goes. They go as Francisco Lindor goes. You know, they go as Lindor goes. So as long as he keeps doing his thing, they're going to win games. Lindor has been the great stat is home runs, right? 27 consecutive games. 27 consecutive games with a home run. I think 29 if you include postseason, where he hits a home run and they win. That's incredible. That is incredible. That is one of the most incredible things. And that just tells you how good he is, and that tells you where this team is with him, and how this team is able to go and keep going. How this team is able to go with him, because of him. And it's such a big boost, I think, too, when they see a player like him come off the bench. You know he's hobbled, you know he's not 100%, you know he's banged up, and he still comes through like that. And you saw it at the end of the game. They were so happy for him. Pete was hugging him and everything. Soto was hugging him and everything. You saw it. Everyone was hugging at him. Everyone was hugging at him. And you know what was great with Lindor, man? The first thing he says when he gets to the post game press conference, he thanks the trainers. He thanks the trainers. He thanks the staff. He thanks them all. Says thank you guys for I want to say thank you for getting me ready. But that's Francisco Lindor, man. That's Lindor. That's Francisco Lindor. He has been one of the biggest Met players I think since Mike Piazza. I'll go farther than Yoenis Cespedes. I'll go farther than Jacob deGrom. I'll go farther than Mike Piazza, than David Wright. You know, I will go as far as to say that Lindor is the most important and most clutch Met player. You know, I will go as far as to say that he is the most important and most clutch Met player since Piazza. I'll go farther than DeGrom, farther than Cespedes, farther than David Wright. That's just how important, how good Lindor has been. Really, again, really since July 2021. But that just goes to show. 2022, he was great. 2023, yes, slow start, but still, he was great that year. Last year, yes, slow start, but put him in the leadoff spot. He was fantastic. You know, and again, how many clutch hits has he had over the last year and a half? So many clutch hits he's had, and he continues to do it game in and game out. What a player. Again, what a player. What a player. And again, such a good win for the Mets. Yeah, some people might say, oh, why are you pumping up a win over the Colorado Rockies? I think it's more just the substance of it. Yeah, look, it's more the substance, right? They're down 1-0, they're struggling to score runs, but they found a way, you know, they found a way to win. I think and it ends up being a great win, for the season. You know, if the Mets continue on this path, and they knock on wood make the playoffs and we see them play in October, you know, we'll look back on a game like this and go, hey, that was a big win. Hey, remember that? That was a pretty key win right there. That was a pretty big win. They showed a lot of toughness and moxie and resiliency there. We'll look back on that win. Yeah, whoa, it was against it was against the Rockies. Yeah, win's a win. You know, a win's a win. It's on the road in a tough place like Coors Field. A win's a win. But you look back on and go, oh wow, that was a pretty big win. Yeah. You look back on the season, when you look back on the season and hopefully for the Mets it's in late October or November. But you look back and go, wow, what a win. That was a good win right there. And I think for the Mets, you're hoping that last night is one of those. And I think it could be that. And I think it was, you know. So, and especially coming off a tough game in the finale against the Dodgers. So you gotta love what you see. I think you love what you see out of the Mets from last night. You love what you saw. You love what you saw from what they did last night. You love what you saw from Pete Alonso, who continues to come through this season. He's been the MVP of the team, and Francisco Lindor continues to be the most clutch player on the team throughout the last year and a half, at least. And the toughness and the hero and of Lindor to come off the bench and still make the big hit and get the big clutch play. And you love also seeing Juan Soto contribute with his first three hit performance of the season. It wasn't like doubles and home runs, no, but it was three hits, three singles, and a walk. His first three hit performance as a Met. So took 3 months, but his first three hit performance as a Met, Juan Soto. And again, I didn't realize it until Keith. I think it was Keith Hernandez who said it. It was either Gary or Keith. I'm not sure, but I didn't realize it. It was like, oh, he was like, oh, that's Juan Soto's first three hit game. I was like, oh, really? Really, it was Juan Soto's first three hit performance of the season. Oh, okay. Yeah, all right. But he was an unsung hero last night, Cody. Senga pitched really well last night. So again, one of those games where you go, it was a good tough win. Didn't look like it was going to be through the first six or so innings, but that was a good tough win. You know, so hats off to them for that. Hats off to them for that win. It was a good tough win for them. And that was they showed a lot last night. I think last night they showed a lot. That's what they should. They're a good team. They got problems. They got flaws. Their offensive run scoring position needs a lot of work and it needs to get a lot better. And their infield defense needs to get a lot better. But again, a game like that shows you, yeah, this is a good baseball team. They're good. Tonight, on a 9:40 game on a Saturday night. Oh man, Major League Baseball. Well, Major League Baseball did the Mets did us East Coasters no favors here. I get a Friday night game, Friday night 8:30, 8:40, whatever it was. I get that in Colorado, but man, a 9:40 game and really Saturday night 9:40. This couldn't be a day game. Really, this couldn't be a day game. Major League Baseball. This couldn't be a day game. This had to be an hour later than last night's game. Really, tomorrow's a day game. That's good. Yeah, tomorrow's a day game, so that's good. But really, Saturday night, 9:40, an hour later from a year from okay, yeah, oh, okay, all right, hey. But tonight, 9:40, Clay Holmes will take the mound for the Mets, and he's with another one. We talk about this Mets starting pitching staff, and talk about the Mets starting rotation. Senga's been good, especially after missing most of last season with the injury. Griffin Canning has been the surprise to me of the rotation. Who had Griffin Canning doing what he's done for the Mets? Who had that? Nobody. He had a 5 ERA last year, over 5 ERA last year, a career 4+ ERA, and he has been really good. He's been really good. He's been really good for the Mets, Griffin Canning. So, and three great performances against three of the best offenses in baseball: the Dodgers a couple days ago, the Cubs, and the Yankees. He's been great against the three best offenses in all of baseball. Griffin Canning. Who figured that at the beginning of the season? I mean, really, he's been great against the three best offenses in baseball. Griffin Canning. Griffin Canning has been really good against the three best offenses in all of baseball. That just goes to show how good he's been. Also goes to give major credit to Jeremy Hefner and the Mets coaching staff and the Mets staff. Shows you a big compliment to them. Tyler McGill. There's been some, Tyler McGill, yeah, he's had his ups and downs throughout his career, but Tyler McGill has had a pretty good year. Hats off to him. He's had a very solid year. David Peterson has still had a good year. He's been a rock. He's been consistent. So, it's a huge again, Clay Holmes. And then we have Clay, and then you got Clay Holmes, who they signed to become a starting pitcher. And again, big question mark. There's like, I don't know. I don't know about Clay Holmes as a starter. I don't know about Clay Holmes as a starter. I'm not sure, but he's been really good. He's been solid. He's given the Mets innings. He has continued to progress and get a bit better and better as every start goes along. You like what you see at Clay Holmes, so we'll see how he does tonight. Now, this will, just like Kodai Senga, this will be Clay Holmes' first start at Coors Field. Obviously, I'm pretty sure he had a couple of appearances as a Yankee in the closer role. So in Colorado, I'm pretty sure he did. So, but this is just like Kodai Senga. This will be his first time as a starter at Coors Field. So this will be interesting. You know, you know, this will be interesting to see how Clay approaches his start at Coors Field, just like Kodai Senga did last night. So that'll be interesting to see. But we'll look forward to see how Clay Holmes does tonight. But he goes tonight for the New York Mets as they look to take the second game of this 3-game series with the Colorado Rockies. And look, try to get wins. You gotta when you're facing teams like this, you like to see them assert their dominance, right? Like I mentioned before on the show, you like to see them assert their dominance. You like to see them, really, have a good day and dominant day. But that's just not who the Mets have been against teams like the Rockies. So you're just saying, hey, find a way, find a way, find a way, find a way. So tonight they will try to find a way. Again, tonight they will try to find a way to win and take the first 2 games of the series. And then the next day on Sunday, you'll again look for the sweep. But for tonight, Clay Holmes goes to the mound. We'll see if Francisco Lindor is in the lineup tonight. I know Lindor said at the end of the game last night that he's looking to go, looking to be in the lineup tonight. Carlos Mendoza said pregame last night that they're looking to maybe put Lindor in the lineup tonight. So we'll see. We'll see if Lindor is in the lineup tonight. Knowing Lindor, he's going to want to play. Knowing Francisco Lindor, he's going to want to play. He's going to want to play, and he's going to want to because that's just who he is. This is who he is. He plays every day. Francisco Lindor is a guy who plays every single day. Like Pete Alonso, he plays every single day. Like Juan Soto, he plays every single day. Those are the three guys, the big three, Brandon Nimmo, those are the three, four guys on this team that want to play and play every single day. So Nimmo does get his off days. Nimmo does get his off days, whether it's for rest or a pitching matchup or so. But he does get his off days. But he's another guy that you can pencil in virtually every day. But it's the big. But again, Francisco Lindor is a guy that does the. It's hard to tell him, hey, you can sit, you can have a day off today. It's hard to tell him that because he does not want to do that. He wants to play 162 games every single season, and so we'll see if he plays. We'll see if he plays tonight. We'll be on the watch for that. Uh we'll see. We'll see if Lindor plays tonight. We'll see if he's in the lineup tonight against the Rockies, and we'll see how Clay Holmes does tonight. His first start at Coors Field. Because that's always an interesting thing to see for every starting pitcher as the Mets continue their series with the Rockies, and after their series with the Rockies, they come back home for a series of the Nationals, which will be tough because that's not only division. The Nationals are pesky. The Nationals are a very, very pesky team. They proved that uh, I believe late April, early May, when they had that 4-game series. They proved that, and the Nationals split that series with the Mets. So they proved that it's a very pesky team. They're young, and they're hungry, and they're pesky, and they're gonna be pretty good in the future. A few years from now, the Nationals are gonna be pretty good. So, but for now, the Mets continue their series with the Rockies tonight with Clay Holmes on the mound, and we'll see if Francisco Lindor is in the lineup. But that'll wrap it up for our first episode of Mazza on Mets. It's been your host, Evan Mazza. I'll be back on Monday to recap the series with the Rockies and previewing the series with the Nationals on Tuesday or Wednesday. I'm hoping to launch my first episode of Mazza on Ravens, and we'll talk everything Baltimore Ravens and their off season to this point, the latest off season activity like the re-signing of Rashad Bateman and his contract extension, and what other contract extensions could be coming up soon. Kyle Hamilton, of course, is a big one. Tyler Lindenbaum, and of course, another big one, Lamar Jackson. The Ravens and Lamar have been talking for the past couple of months. Jeremy Fowler, I think, said before that they've been talking internally as recently as a few days ago. So that deal will be something to watch, and we'll be talking about that in our first episode of Mazza and Ravens. Oh well, of course, we got to talk about the new addition to the AFC North and the Ravens who will be facing Aaron Rodgers, who recently signed with the Pittsburgh Steelers a few days ago. The Ravens will be facing Aaron Rodgers and possibly even Joe Flacco. So all those things we'll get on. We'll talk about on our first episode of Mazda and Ravens. I'm hoping to launch that either Tuesday or Wednesday, so be on the lookout for that. Like I said before, that'll do it for Mazda and Mets. We'll be back on Monday. Thank you very much for joining. I've been your host, Evan Mazza, and have a great day, and let's go Mets.